AJ, did you want to take the running of this meeting based on what you sort of said in the Slack, or?
Yeah. I got it. Both here. All right, well, good deal. I believe Michael is he threw the meeting notes, an agenda, and attendance doc up for us all to fill in there. So please, by all means, fill your name in there. I'm updating the doc with the new chair and co-chairs at the top of the doc. Attendance down at the bottom. Do a quick copy and paste down here at the bottom for attendance. Boom. I'm not sure if Mel did Melba say she'd be here today, Mike? Do you remember that?
I think she also has for this week, because of something or other, that she has an overlap.
All good. Okay. So then let's jump right in. If we have any new well, first of all, thank you all for attending. And then if anyone is available to take notes, that'll be a great help. If anybody can take notes, that would be a great help. Also, do we have anyone new that's attending that has not attended before that'd like to introduce themselves, say hi?
Hi, I'm John, new to this meeting. I've been popping into a bunch of the different working group meetings, side positioning and Fresca and other things like that. So just coming up to speed on all the awesome work everyone is doing, and super interested in supply chain security. So.
Excellent, John. Welcome, man. Welcome. I've seen you in a few other meetings too. We gotta stop meeting like this. All right. Do we have anyone else new? As I look at the list here, I think
yes.
I think I've seen everyone's name before. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm Michelle. I'm also not new to the working groups, but this is the first time I attend this particular meeting. And well, I'm just as like you, very interested in supply chain security. So
Awesome.
More than happy to be here.
Welcome, Michelle. I know I've seen you before in other meetings. I didn't realize you hadn't attended this one before, so welcome.
No, I attend several others, but this is because I usually had my Wednesdays blocked. So this is the first time that my schedule changed and I'm able to do this.
Nice. All right, well, good. Welcome. Welcome. So I didn't see any agenda items that were new for this week. We'll drop down into the past week to see if there is anything that is anything that was outstanding that we need to rotate on a little bit. We do have the RC, the 1.0, SALSA 1.0 RC that's out. I think we're going to do RC2 here shortly. S2C2F, I know, is working on some training modules with SKF. Also, there's a couple of speaking engagements for S2C2F, especially in the RSA, which Adrian will be doing here at the end of towards the end of April. And then, of course, we'll be having the ketchup, mustard, and relish, the Open Summit, which will talk about S2C2F, Salsa, and Fresca. In a panel discussion, so we have those coming up. We also have a few documents a few blogs that are being created that need to be reviewed out of the supply chain integrity positioning meeting. We have that coming up as well. I think what we can do is drop down into the SIGs and just get a good round of discussion SIG related. I'm not if who I want to say, John, are you able to give a quick about salsa? Just as a just from the bi-weekly meetings, I believe I've seen you in there. If not, I think I can give a 1 and 2 just for memory purposes. But I can definitely give something about S2C2F and Mike about Fresca. Let's do it that way. Just to go around to the respective SIGs and have a quick round about where we're at with those.
I have not yet been able to get into the specification meetings for salsa, but it's on my list of things. I had to move other meetings blocking it.
All good, all good. I'll defer to Mike then about salsa because I know you're heavily involved in all those meetings.
Yeah, sure. So there's a bunch of issues up. I apologize. I'm switching from writing the notes for a second to bring up some of these. So there's a bunch of issues up for some of this. There's actually a bunch of PRs that folks are looking for reviews and comments on. Where is some of this? There was the well, let me try and find this. There's one about distribution. Let me pull that up. There's one on distributing provenance, and there's a bunch of other ones, but I'll just post this one in the meeting notes here. I'll post it here in the chat as well. So there's a bunch of comments on that. There's a few other things that have already been resolved around making some of the language a little bit clearer. So we switched back from isolated and ephemeral to just using the word isolated for how builds should be. And then ephemeral is just a property of isolated as opposed to it being its own separate thing. There's a bunch of stuff on that end and a lot of other little changes like that have been happening. And so there's a lot of stuff to kind of based on the feedback that people are prepping for the release candidate 2. So that's just sort of the generic salsa stuff and the salsa specification stuff. As far as some of the salsa positioning stuff, there is a salsa tracks blog that's looking for feedback. This one is, hold on one second, for some reason. GitHub, oh no. GitHub is giving me 500 errors, but I believe this is the PR on that, and so this is so this is a blog article just sort of explaining the depth and breadth of salsa regarding stuff like, what are the different salsa tracks and why we have those different salsa tracks. And that's up for review. The very high level overview of that one is just you could have a secure build without having secure source, and you could have secure source without having a secure build. And so we wanted to make sure that was separate and clear so that folks knew where to start looking if something were to go wrong. Oh, okay, if something went wrong, well, the problem's probably not a compromise in the build because we're doing all the right things from a salsa perspective, but we're not really doing the right things, let's say, from a source and dependencies perspective. So, and that's kind of where some of the S2C2F and other things come in. So that's that. There's also another blog more generally about why split up salsa build from salsa source, those tracks that Melba and Chris are writing. And let me see if I can find that one. This one's still just a Google Doc, and I'll post that there. I believe they're looking potentially for some feedback on that one. And then as far as salsa cool. Oh, and then there's also the salsa 1.0 communications stuff that's coming out soon. So there's a bunch of discussions happening on that front. trying to keep folks in the loop, make sure that we have sort of from an OpenSSF perspective, we have sort of that unified vision. And then for a lot of the various community members who are very involved in Salsa, who are interested in also being part of that, that communication blast, there's some discussions happening on that front as well. And then Salsa tooling is looking to change the meeting time, because a lot of the folks who have been working traditionally, I guess, working on a lot of the Salsa tooling have worked at different, they tend to be West Coast, and the 9 a.m. East Coast meeting, or no, sorry, 10 a.m. East Coast meeting is a little early for them. So we're looking to sort of change that up. And we're, probably deferring a little bit to folks who are actually hands-on keyboard engineers a little bit. So, not to, discount any of the work that other folks are doing, but we kind of wanted to make sure that we could get some of the people who are actually actively doing the software engineering to start to collaborate a bit more, because there's a lot of tools that are, we could probably have like stuff like shared libraries and some of these other things kind of come out of what is happening in the tooling space. So that's another thing that's being worked on from the tooling side. Oh, and one other thing from the tooling side is potentially having a shared, developing something like a standards or best practices around distributing Salsa, right? There's some high level guidance coming from the specification itself, but we probably want to say, hey, if everybody can, if there's something like if everybody sort of name their files like this, then any tool that ingested Salsa stuff would be able to do that. So anyway, that's Salsa tooling. Oh, and yeah.
All right, we might as well hang out there, Mike, and give a quick rundown on Fresca.
Sure. Yeah. So Fresca, I have a what is Fresca? So as a reminder, Fresca, due to a couple of different things that folks have. Let me just put this here. Take a step back. So Fresca, some of the maintainers and contributors to Fresca have been sort of realigned. I'm not going to name any names, but there's some companies that were working on Fresca and that had to step away and to do other things, and some other folks have moved on to other jobs, and Fresca is not a priority for them. So we kind of went from about 3 or 4 core maintainers, along with like another 4 or so pretty common contributors, down to mostly just me and a few other folks just kind of keeping the lights on. So we are looking to kind of get more contributors again, or call, if it turns out, hey, why don't we just sort of use Fresca as a teaching example? Let's not really focus too much on the features. There's lots of different options we have there from a use case perspective. So let me just share this. So I shared it in the chat, in the Google Doc, but here it is here in this chat. I wrote up a what is Fresca so that folks better understand both the why of Fresca, which thanks Jay for recommending that. I think that telling the story of how Fresca came about is kind of important for folks to understand why it was sort of why it looks the way it does. And so for folks who are not super familiar, as a reminder, Fresca is kind of came out of a lot of the frustration, confusion around all the different security tools out there with regarding to build and that sort of thing, and how could people create something like a Salsa builder themselves. And so this is using tools like Tecton chains, Kyverno as policy management, Spire for stuff like workload attestations and those things. And those things combined create a secure build system that can be Salsa compliant, can ingest stuff from let's say S2C2F and so on. And so that's kind of why Fresca. And so right now it's kind of in a state of it's an example, it's a POC, but it's not necessarily something that could just be deployed by somebody as just a tool today. And so the answer, so there's some questions here of what are folks' use cases? Do folks want to see this turn into more of like just a pure teaching example so that people can almost like build their own Fresca, right? Based on, hey, we swap out Kyverno with OPA and this is the things you should be considering and so on. Or do folks want to see this to be an actual thing that, could be a deployable build tool? I think those are the things that we're looking to kind of get from folks from a use case perspective. And then secondarily, we're also looking for folks like who are actual, like software systems engineers who can help build out some of those features.
And excellent. Okay, and from S2C2F, and we had a great meeting. We also had another issue up, and I believe it was issue number 16, where there was a question about one of the controls, and I believe Adrian had answered that one. Also, we got a chance to talk about Adrian finalizing his slides for RSA, and then the upcoming panel discussion at the Open Summit. Oh, as I said before, we're also working on their training with SKF. Now that part's that's going really, really well. We're almost done with the first outline and draft of the different training modules, which will go before the SKF, and then they'll help us format and tease out the rest of that, so we can at least get some training modules up so people can start getting trained on implementation of S2C2F. Also, we're working on currently the explanatory report towards entering the path submitter process for S2C2F as well. And I know that believe that Salsa will be ready to do the same thing once we get 1.0 off the ground and it's actually being adopted. So we'll use one as a guinea pig to make smoother the other, going through the same process towards specification. So good times are ahead for all of these different frameworks and of course in Fresca as well. I'm really excited about the trajectory that we're going. I believe we're also doing a bit of work on the supply chain security framework that we're building here in this working group too, and I think that we are due for take a look back at the notes here. I believe we're due for some kind of a meeting on that here shortly, where we're actually going ahead and teasing that out. I know that that's been something that's near and dear to Isaac's heart, because we been talking about that for so long. So eventually I think we need to be drilling back down on that. And then you break that document. I'm trying to find the link to that document. Leave that document here in the notes. If somebody has it quickly, we can bring it up. Oh, here it is. I got it. Yeah. So there's this. This is where we're establishing our priorities. And I think, let's see, look here. I'm trying to remember what Isaac's net with this was, whether or not we were going ahead and this is a document that I'm looking at right here. So this is something that we have been rotating on for a while now, up to and including what we know. Looking back on what we've done, these are our priorities going in. We're looking at 1.0 right now, and as Michael is just talking about, when it comes to tooling and these two bullets right here are increasingly important as we begin to think about RC2 for 1.0. So eventually we want to get back into this document, kind of tease out a few more things here, amongst all of, up to and including Fresca as well. I think Michael's blog or the post that he's writing right now will help out in this area a great deal. Because as we begin to get people interested in Fresca again and get them, diving back into putting hands on it, adopting, getting the community behind it again will actually add and teasing this part out so this part could be have a little bit more meat to it. This last one right here, though, this is the one right here I was referring to. So eventually I'd like for us, I know Isaac would like this too, for us to think about forming or reforming some sort of a tiger team or a SIG that specifically talks about this umbrella framework that we can begin to develop and tease out design and then begin to develop underneath the working group. So I'll pause there. Do we have any thoughts on how best to tackle this part? I'm very interested in this as well because I think this will be good, not just for this working group, but this will be good for the whole of the OpenSSF as we begin to conceptualize what a umbrella framework looks like. That's being that is the voice, right? One voice across the OpenSSF for how we conduct ourselves in supply chain security. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, so I know that there's some discussion on, and I hope not to trigger anybody because I know there's a lot of back and forth on this, but there's a discussion on a thing called, the Sterling tool chain. And I know that there's some back and forth about what exactly is that, and is that actually going to get off the ground? I know that was something that the governing board sort of voted on in December, but I know that there's the OpenSSF is trying to hire a chief architect and some other folks to kind of help out with that sort of thing. But I know that's kind of where I think this sort of umbrella framework would also sort of fit in. They would be like, would fit in somewhere there. And I know one of the things that kind of have also come out of some of the discussions is folks are like asking for, hey, and how do I actually implement that framework? Nobody's saying like there needs to be only one way to implement it, but how could I actually go about doing some of those things? Like for example, if here's our rules for something like vulnerability management, great. How would somebody implement that from a policy perspective? How would somebody actually, configure their tools to help out with it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, to that point, right? So there's a lot of stuff being developed. The security tooling working group has spun back up, and they're conceptualizing a lot of great things that have to do with the SALSA and S2C2F and the tools that are going to be used therein, right? So that working group is doing some things there. Just got off a great call with the vulnerability disclosures Tiger team doing a disclosure policy, right? So I'm pretty sure that as that gets spun up, then now have relevance into this framework as well, right? I mean, go ahead, John.
Yeah, I was just going to ask about some of the other efforts within OpenSSF. I'm trying to learn where they all fall. The ones that I think could be related would be things like Guac. I don't know if that's under a working group, and the SBOMIT stuff and Omnivore. Like there's a lot of really interesting projects that relate to supply chain security and could tie into this larger umbrella framework. I'm just thinking of the best way to solicit either feedback from those groups or pull in the right people from other working groups. Like what's the right hierarchy of where this should fall, and does this group have the right charter and purview to take that on. And that's also like, I get more wrapped up around this stuff than needs to happen sometimes, just into like, so, you know, I like the idea of the intent of open source governance to be more lightweight when possible, as opposed to like getting burrowed down in these things. So I'm also okay just saying like, hey, it's fine. I'll defer to you all as experts.
You know what? I think once we decide that we're going to establish some sort of SIG to work on this specifically, I think it's fair game. Why not bring all those people into the room and discuss where all of that stuff fits, if it fits, right? If it fits, if it doesn't fit, okay. But there's no harm in having that discussion, because like I said, there's stuff going on all across the OpenSSF. And I'm not sure if guac, the conversation around guac is involved. I know there's conversations about guac. I'm not sure if it's inside of the OpenSSF like Fresca is, but I know that there's conversations outside, there's conversations around, right? But all that can be talked about, and all that can know that there is relevance there for all those conversations. Go ahead, Mike.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, yeah. So guac, as well as Omnivore and some of the other ones like SBOMIT, don't currently fall under the OpenSSF, but I believe, I'm not sure. Omnivore, I'm not deep with that group, but I know guac, actually one of the things that we plan to do is in 2 weeks from now in this meeting, we plan to demo guac to the group to sort of, you know, the intention is probably to contribute it to the OpenSSF, whether it's this group or another group. We're going to be demoing guac to multiple groups to kind of, you know, see if there's any interest there. But yeah, I think, you know, one of the other problems is a lot of those projects don't quite currently fall under OpenSSF, but there might be, but also I know that with some of the stuff that we've been talking about is they don't necessarily have to fall under the OpenSSF to still be involved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely not. I mean, I think once we get into this discussion, the beauty of this specific discussion is that it's something that is going to span across the entirety of the OpenSSF and can include outside tools, and you know, it doesn't have to be something that's specific. I mean, would we love all of those tools to be in-house? Sure, but that doesn't have to be the case, right? And I think that that's the beauty of this particular initiative. I don't want to take a vote on creating a SIG for it without Isaac, though. So I won't put that here. I do want it to show up in the notes so that when we have Isaac back and you know, he's able to put his eyes on it, then we can talk about it and get there. But I did want to make sure it was mentioned in this meeting and on this recording and in these notes that we did in fact bring it up, and that we are putting some thought to it, especially considering a lot of the great discussions we're having across the other working groups with a lot of initiatives they have going on, guides that are being published, best practices that are being talked about, especially you know, hardening guides being developed. All that stuff has relevance here. So wanted to make sure that we keep that nice and tight on the radar. All right. As far as agenda item, like I said, there wasn't anything there for the agenda, but as far as the working group goes, I believe we covered down SIGs, we covered down our 23 priorities. Are there any opens, or is there anything that anybody wants to bring up to the working group for the working group's attention that we can think about going forward? Not hearing any comments. I'll say that that is literally all we have. So I can give everybody 28 minutes back, or we can sit here and have a casual conversation amongst ourselves about the OpenSSF and how much we enjoy it. Yes. Or we can all just sit here and watch Claudia walk. I'm with that too. I can see her and watch Claudia walk. I respect the treadmill game. I like it.
I'm having a fun time because every single time I've had 3 times this in the past 3 days where I've had my office circuit breaker trip. And so I am currently down underneath my desk because this time when the circuit breaker tripped, my uplift desk lost its tracking, so it doesn't know where it is. And so I need to pull everything out from underneath my desk, including my desktop computer, which is mounted slightly hanging lower than the desk will go. So if I reset the desk by running it all the way down to the bottom, it will bottom out. So I have to rip my desk stand apart in order to reset the desk so that I can get the thing up high enough so that it can go all the way down to know where 0 is.
That's why I don't have a standing desk.
I have never had this problem before, but I'm having circuit breakers blow on me in my office.
I'd rather my chair go up and down than my desk. I'm just saying that.
Yeah, but as Claudia can attest to, being able to walk in front of your desk or stand in front of your desk is pretty sweet.
Yeah, but I have a
Getting those steps.
very cheap setup here. It's like a $80 Target desk with a manual lift on top of it. So not much to break there, you know. Very low
Yeah.
tech.
Man, getting those steps in those. How many steps do you do in a day, Claudia? It was like, we had 20,000.
I don't know. I do an hour every day because otherwise I won't exercise, and that is not good.
Yeah, that's all right though. That's all right. It's all right. Yeah. All right. Well, as I said, we're at 26 minutes now, so you guys have some time back. I do have a nice tight 10 a.m. meeting for myself. I got the identifying security threats meeting group up next. I'll be attending that. If anybody else is attending that, I'll see you there. If not, I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.